Hello, friends. Welcome to ConnectImpact Hub's live event. Today, we're having a wonderful panel discussion on advocacy. And I am really excited to be here with everyone who's on stage with us and anyone that's joining us in the chat. Please leave a comment, or if you're here watching Team Replay, please leave a comment. And with that, who am I? I am the founder of ConnectImpact Hub, where our mission is to end homelessness. And today's discussion is around advocacy and also personal stories, and also the work that we do on a daily basis. So with that, I'm going to introduce our next guest, Sandra. I'm going to pass over the mic to you so you could introduce yourself, and then please pass it on to the next person, and then we'll come back to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you so much for having me, for putting out the call to collaborate. So for that, I'm appreciative. My name is Sandra L. Washington. I am the CEO of MediHelps LLC and the CEO partner for Chom's MediHelps Foundation. What we do is we simplify healthcare, and we do it on so many levels. So that's what I'm all about, is making sure that all of us are included in the healthcare system and have the proper tools and resources to use that all-important tool that we all own, which is our voice. And I am going to pass it on to Sharon.
Well, thank you, Sandra and Martha. I am Sharon Byrne. I am a systems impact strategist, and healthcare system is one of the systems that I work to impact and so badly want to impact, because I myself was born with a disability. I was born with cerebral palsy and have had many years within the healthcare system and lots of different experiences, some positive, some negative, some in between, and some very much extreme on both ends. And so I'm just really happy to be here and glad to be collaborating with all of you on this very important topic, and a topic that is very much in the forefront right now, given the changing structure of the world as we know it. And, healthcare is really being impacted. So thank you, Martha, for bringing us all together. And I'm glad to be here with everyone. And Jay, it is to you.
Thank you, Sharon, for passing the mic. Hi, Martha. Hi, everyone. My name is Jay. I'm coming to you from Massachusetts. I was invited by this panel by Martha, and I'm so glad to be here. I am an advocate of disabilities and have been disabled since I was born with a syndrome called congenital central hyperventilation syndrome. It is a rare disease which impacts impacts our respiratory system, and I use a ventilator at night when I go to sleep, or if I have to stay home. And I also use a suction machine for my tracheostomy. I'm just happy to be here today, and I pass the mic to Leanne Fields.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you to share my experiences. I was a social services coordinator before COVID, and then my position was cut from the budget, but I have a lot of experience having lived on one of the properties I was responsible for, and it was Section 8 special needs. So there was a lot of activity and just so much to share with you. I'm looking forward to it. I'll pass it back to our host.
Thank you so much, Sandra, Sharon, Jay, Leanne. Thank you so much for just being here with us today. Before we jump right on into our stories of how we got into advocacy, I want to just welcome some of our friends in the audience. I see Gisette is here. Thank you, Gisette, for being here with us today. And please, if you have questions also, let us know, and we'll be answering them as we go through our live event today. Hello, Brother Felipe. Thank you so much for joining us. And I also see our brother Bill. Thank you for being here. So awesome. I love you to the moon and back too, Bill. I really do. Okay, so I'm going to start with let's start with Jay. Jay, how did you become an advocate, or what inspired you to become an advocate?
Yeah, so what inspired me to become an advocate was, you know, I was when I first found out about my diagnosis. Actually, it's my parents that found out about the syndrome. No, excuse me. That found out that I was going to be born with CCHS, and at the time of birth up until about, I would say about about 2012, 2016. I didn't know how to advocate. I didn't know what to do. So my parents were introduced to during the time during between my from birth to about that time. My parents were much involved with the CCHS network, where they're headquartered in California. And this syndrome basically impacts about 2,000, 3,000 patients worldwide. It's a very rare syndrome. There's no treatment for it. And today, for about, let's say, 3, 4 years, I've been part of a campaign. Every year we have a rare disease campaign, and I wanted to share this billboard. As you can see, conducted by myself. And so this is the machine that I spoke of earlier. It is the Trilogy Evo, and this machine is helping me, helping me breathe when I go to sleep. Living with a ventilator has not been an easy journey. When I have to travel, I have to take it with me. Otherwise, if I don't have my ventilator and I go to sleep, I could pass away very easily. And this is a suction machine, which I had talked about earlier. And this is a machine I use when my tracheostomy gets dirty or I get sick, I get infection, mucus, you name it. Um, and then this is our campaign logo, casting a light on CCHS with a lighter bug. And this is just a picture of me celebrating my 10 years of employment uh, at Walmart. Uh, and and also just a picture of me celebrating my birthday in Canada. But again, like I said, this really got me into advocating about forced disabilities and CCHS. The CCHS network was the first organization that I started to get involved in about 2013. And then next one came the Diversibility Leadership Collective, which incorporated all kinds of disabilities. So, that's how my advocacy got going. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay. You are not only going through something yourself since birth, but you're sharing your journey, and now you're a voice to others who may be going through the same condition. Have you been able to get connected with the folks in the same diagnosis as you? How has that been, that community?
That's such a great question, Martha. And the answer would be yes. Yes, we do. And this is an example of true networking. And what I had begun to do is when I first got part of the CCHS network, meaning like when I first got signed up to be part of the Facebook group or Instagram or what have you. I got introduced with many people, many patients who either have a trach or have been decannulated. And we have been able to talk about not about just about CCHS, but you know, again, anything really, off CCHS, whether it's movies, books, having some fun activities, what has been going on a day-to-day basis, being able to celebrate the holidays together virtually because we all may not live in the same state. We all live in Ohio or Indiana, you name it. And so, I truly felt that, networking collaborators like those are more essential than the ones who have not actually experienced or don't have a good understanding of what it is like to be disabled. Because, people like myself, they go through certain things, and in the workplace or sometimes outside, they have a lack of understanding. And so
Mhm.
patients who resonate with us understand what we go through every night and every day of our lives. So
Yeah.
thank you for that
Thank
question.
you. Thank you, Jay, so much, and the importance of community. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Sandra. Sandra, please share how did you get into advocacy?
Well, the steps weren't easy and they were many. I am a part of a community of folks. I'm an African American, I'm a woman. I I live the advocacy role. I study the advocacy role, and I have so much experience in doing both, being a woman and being an African American and being someone that studied in the field. I became actively engaged in the patient advocacy role when I lost two sisters. One I lost to, actually, both of them were gaslighted, meaning they showed up at the doctor's office and said, "Hey, this is the symptoms I'm having." And they literally got blown off. One of my sisters passed away from a very heart condition that I actually had to go to battle with the medical director at her health insurance company, because at the time that she was diagnosed with this condition, it was rare, and it was amyloidosis, and it was rare. No one heard of it. Everyone said, well, there's no, at the time when she passed, she was in her 50s. Most people don't realize as you get older, you mean less to the healthcare system. You literally have to show them that there's a reason why you should be kept alive. And that's what she had to do, and that's what I had to do. So I fought with the medical director at the health insurance plan. They finally approved her to have the surgery that she needed. She passed away on the operating table. Couple that with one of my other sisters who passed away, and she went to the doctor because she noticed that she was having lumps up under her arms, and she was told that's menopause. A couple of months after she was told that diagnosis, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. A couple of years after that, she passed away from ovarian cancer. So seeing that just put a fire in me to let me know that, hey, you have to do something. It's okay for you to want these things to change, but unless you put the work in to actually change them, they're not going to change. So, like I stated, me being that in a minority community, two minority communities, then having it actually impact me personally. And even right now, I've been diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, and I also am diabetic. So I can't stop the fight, because not only am I fighting in remembrance of my sisters and in remembrance of my communities, but I'm also fighting for me. So that's how I got started, and that's why I'm continuing to do that fight in advocacy.
Whew, Sandra, I felt every word there. You got love in the comments too from friends. Felipa's here. Great to see you, Sandra. And Josette said same. Um, yeah, I mean, it does. It does something in us when we're going through something, especially when it hits home. Sandra, thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to pass it over to Leanne. Leanne, please let us know what got you into advocacy.
I've been a paralegal for over 18 years, and I had been assisting the elderly because the couples who'd been married for 40 or 50 years and one spouse had a 24/7 diagnosis medical condition and was going to need to be in a skilled nursing facility or assisted living facility where they had their own little small apartment, but everything that they had saved would be wiped out by the cost of what it is to have care in an assisted living facility or skilled nursing facility. Because at the time, this was back in 2006, the going rate for one room at an assisted living was $4,000 a month. And so within 1 year, you're going to blow through easily $50,000 besides what the extra cost of medical care that you need in your prescriptions, and on it goes, and physical therapy or kidney dialysis. So that was really quite alarming, that I really wanted to assist the elderly who worked hard all their life to save up for their retirement, to face financial disaster. I just think that's completely, our medical system is very fragile. And this is one thing that really needs to be addressed: long-term care and what the costs are and what you can do to protect yourself from not having to go into bankruptcy because of your medical condition. So I decided to go back to school. I wanted to major in social services, and I graduated from Whitworth University in 2013 with honors. I'm very proud of that. And then it was really hard. I could easily get a legal job, but that's not what I spent years getting my degree. Finally, after 27 interviews, I got my social services coordinator position. Then COVID came along, knocked me out. And after that, we were in quarantine. There wasn't any hiring, even at home. And then I faced ageism, because I was now 62, and there's just a lot of discrimination I experienced, because I went on a total of 48 interviews. I never in the past ever had a problem getting a job because I had a really good skill set. So at any rate, I'm still trying to figure out where I want to land, getting my feelers out. But I know what's really important for me is advocacy for the marginalized as well as the elderly. That's my story.
Thank you, Leanne, so much. I'm going to pass it over to Sharon now to share what got her into advocacy.
Well, thank you, Martha, and thank you, everybody who's joining us live and on the replay. And so glad to be here with all the panelists. What got me into advocacy, I could relate to everyone else, aspects of everyone else and their stories that they shared. And, my story is similar to everyone's, pieces of everyone's. But having been born with cerebral palsy, and being premature, and basically being told, my parents being told that I would not live past 48 hours. And initially watching my mom and dad having to advocate for me just to be able to exist in daily functioning life, and to fight to get me into existing systems like public school systems, play groups that weren't, segregated solely for people with disabilities, and just things like that. So watching my parents advocate for me, basically taught me to advocate from a very young age. And then watching other people who were not able to advocate for themselves, either because they were too scared, or maybe they didn't have the communication skills or the ability to speak, or verbalize. It really ticked me off to watch, and it still does to this day, to watch people be marginalized, to be treated unjustly and unfairly. And I am not, from the time I was very young, I am not a person that can just stand by and watch something that is unjust and or unfair happen and not say something about it or not do something about it. Because like Sandra said, if we don't do, it's one thing to see something happen, but if we don't do something about it, odds are it's not going to change. And you know, it's the actions that are going to make the difference. And I'm not saying it's not easy to be an advocate, because you often come up against resistance within the systems that you're advocating, and you often come against resistance from people in society because you're being vocal about something that needs to change. But if we don't do it, then we're not, if we keep doing the same thing, then the same things are going to happen. We can't expect different results from doing the same thing, and staying silent is not going to work. I mean, silence can be a very effective tool sometimes, but for the most part, staying silent is not going to be the answer, especially when it comes to advocating for people's basic human rights and needs. And so I really believe that everybody has a purpose in this world, and everybody has a right to reach their full potential, and everybody has the right to the same basic access to the same basic things. It shouldn't be, I have in the past been denied insurance for having pre-existing conditions. I have been denied access to services that I need because I'm not disabled enough. Other services I can't get because I'm too disabled. And I've had to literally go to doctors to prove that I'm disabled, because it's not enough to show up in my wheelchair or, or a bunch of other things. And so I just find it ridiculous, the amount of bureaucracy and red tape that exists just to allow people to live a daily life and to be able to function. So that's what got me into advocacy, and that's what keeps me here. And I will be advocating until my very last breath. So.
Thank you, Sharon. So I'm going to just share a little bit about myself also. But before I do that, I'm going to go over to the comments, because I see we have a couple more friends that join us. Layla, welcome. Thank you for being here with us. She's here from Vancouver. And then she also said, Jay is a phenomenal advocate. Yes, he is. And then we also have Jackie in the building. Thank you, Jackie, for being here. And then we have Sean Michael, who came in as well. Thank you for joining us. And so I know you had your hand up, Jay. I'll be right with you. I'm just going to do my quick little journey advocacy. So for me, I started as a kid advocating for my mom. And then I ended up advocating for her friends. And so that led me to, and excuse my background, I have a teenager in the back. So if you hear any noise, got a teenager. So that then led me to the healthcare field in advocacy. And I got to experience how we were looked down upon because we were on Medicaid. And then working in the field, I got to see how Medicaid recipients were treated compared to those who have health coverage, such as through their employers, or maybe they're paying for it. So that's also other areas to talk about maybe later. But just witnessing that, and then working with unhoused population, I kind of just brought in all my skills into ConnectImpact Hub, where now I'm advocating for housing, I'm advocating for healthcare, I'm advocating for the unhoused community. I'm just become this advocate now. And I absolutely love it. And I always say to my members is, don't do it alone. You're not alone. Ask for help. Because when you are alone and you're advocating for yourself, sometimes you're not heard. You need to have another set of ears. They're listening so that you are heard. And so thank you so much, panel, for sharing each of your journeys and how you got here. And Jay, you had a question.
Yeah, I just want to say, one of the biggest challenges that, I have faced is that Like we always need that 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 I forgot my thought, but what one of the biggest challenges that I had to face is that whenever I had to travel to anywhere in the state, like anywhere like in the United States, whether it's Iceland or not Iceland, I'm sorry, but like Arizona or Florida, or there was this one time where we all went to Iceland for this big trip. And one of the things that we when I first traveled, one of the biggest challenges we had to face is the ability to bring our equipment. Because you know there was always this pushback saying that they're not you can't take equipment with you on the plane unless you have a doctor's note, and you literally had to you know challenge it challenge your people. And I think that's one of the biggest things people with disabilities face, is that being able to get that accommodation, you know because they want to travel. And so having to go through this trouble of why we're not allowed to take some equipment unless we have a doctor's note or some kind of notice saying that you can take this equipment. I think that's the biggest challenge that patients face. And the second thing I wanted to say is I think these days companies are now forgetting the inclusive factor, because I think the the DEI portion of employment is completely gone out the window. And again, I talk about this lack of understanding about disabilities, and I think that that's a second challenge that I think Sharon had talked about when she talked about her experience, me being too disabled, and all that. So I think those are two main challenges I think we should talk about today.
Yeah, and moving with that conversation that you just shared, I'm going to pass the mic over to Sandra. She's going to be speaking about adversities. So I believe what you just mentioned, and also Sharon, Leanne, and some of our friends that are in the here with us today, they'll definitely resonate with that as well. So Sandra, I'm passing it over to you, and then we'll pop in because this is going to be a hot conversation.
You know what adversity always is, and I actually want to take us back to DEI, as Jay just mentioned. DEI, I fought for such a long time for that word, the other E, to be included in the DEI conversation. And I would also often hear, my tongue is tied. I would often hear, why are you trying to bring political information into this conversation? Like, that's something that's racist, or that's something that's this, or that's something that's that. And when we look at that other E, right? So we have diversity, equity, oh goodness, I can't even think right now. But we have the other E that's in there, especially the equity part. We have that E that's in there. We forget about the health justice. We forget about that E that means health justice. It's not equating to anything racial. It's equating to the justice part. And I was just reading maybe a couple of weeks ago where that other where actually the DEI was being pushed back, because DEI was actually originally it was DEIA. And
Mm-hmm.
so the A dropped off, which is that accessibility, which calls into question what Jay, what Sharon, what so many other people that have disabilities, physical disabilities, where you can actually see that they're hurting, don't have access to the same equipment and the same services that anyone else should have. And they shouldn't have to go through that. But that adversity comes when they do have to, show up at the airport with medical equipment. And you're like, okay, well, you need a doctor's note for that. For what? Right? Why do they need a doctor's note when you see that there's something wrong with them? Even if you can't see something's wrong with them, You can look at a person and see that they're being challenged in some kind of way, but yet they're being, hey, this is one hoop, but now you got to jump through 3 or 4 or more other hoops, right? We have to remove that adversity that they have to face, those that actually we can literally look at them and see that there's something wrong, that we need to go 110% above where we are. We need to do that in order so that they can be included, right? Let's take the acronym DEI out and let's use our common sense that we all have and say this person needs help. Let me do what I have to do in order to help them. To Leanne's issue, when she talks about ageism, I tell people that ask me, Sandra, could you help me get a job? And I look at their resume, I have to automatically tell them, which is sad for me, but I have to automatically tell them, take that 40 years worth of experience off of your resume, because what it does is it puts you in an adverse light, because they'll figure, okay, 40 years of experience, that means this person is this old, right? And while we shouldn't do it, ageism comes into play. And it shouldn't come into play, one, because we need each other. The younger people need the older people because they need they need to know what we went through. Not so much because they're going to go through the same thing, but they need to know what we went through. So we bring that history, right? And us as older people, we need the younger people because we need to see what they're seeing. We need to open up our eyes and have the intergenerational conversation going on, which so often is not called into play, which so often brings us to that adversity, right? That adversity. It calls into play that adversity. Sadly, we shouldn't be calling it into play, but especially now in the times that we're going into now, that adversity is definitely there and it needs to be removed. We need to do all we can to remove it. My last point on that adversity piece is this. We can remove it. One, like Jay could take his adverse, what's going on with him and his condition and all the adversity that he faces. He can fight it alone. Leanne, same thing. She could take her, issue. She can fight it. She can fight it alone. Same thing for Sharon. She could fight it alone. Same thing for me and you, Martha. But this is it. It works better in power. If we don't start collaborating and more than just words, but if we don't start seriously collaborating and doing it as a collective effort, all the fighting that we do individually falls to the wayside. There's power in numbers. So to remove that adversity, we definitely need to start walking and talking and doing in that collective manner.
Wow. Yes. And I looked it up. Inclusion is that last word, Sandra.
Yeah.
So for DEI, because I had to look it up. I hear it often, but I don't remember the verbiage. So so I'll just go back. So it is, for friends that may be listening, it is diversity, the presence of difference within group, equity, ensuring fair access opportunities and resources by recognizing that people start from different places, and then inclusion, creating environments where all individuals feel. And then there's a list of a couple things. So with that conversation, Sandra, I'm going to move to see if, before we move to the next conversation, which is going to be relatable to what you just spoke. Does anyone here that's with us have any questions in the comments regarding adversity? I'm going through the comments right now. Please bear with me. I'm just seeing if there's any questions here for us. Okay. Sharon, Jay, Leanne, anything you would like to add to what Sandra just mentioned regarding adversities?
I think that one thing that we really have to acknowledge is that, yes, when you can see something, you shouldn't have to explain it or, validate it. But I also want to say that for people with hidden challenges or disabilities or conditions, whatever word you want to use, they shouldn't have to validate it either, to the extent that they do. And even for people with visual disabilities like myself using a wheelchair, there are things about my disability and how it impacts my life that are hidden, that you wouldn't know unless I shared it with you, or unless you were out with me and experiencing me having a challenge that's related to something that's not seen. So I think that, I mean, and I can give you really concrete examples of even how ridiculous it is with the visual part of my disability, that I had to get a doctor's note substantiating my disability to be able to purchase wheelchair seating for a concert. And then I had to leave the note on file with the venue so that I didn't have to go down to the venue and buy the tickets at the box office, because it's very difficult, or at least back then, and I think it still is, to get tickets from like a ticket master. And even if you did at this time, a lot of times they would, they would give you a hard time for utilizing the wheelchair ticket because you didn't have a doctor substantiating that you were disabled. When I learned how to drive and I went for my driver's permit, I had to have 2 restrictions put on my permit, and then therefore my license. It was corrective lenses and driving with full hand controls. And for those of you who don't know, hand controls are how you operate your gas and brake, and also it's having a spinner knob on your steering wheel. That's considered full hand controls, because you need to be able to make a full turn with one hand, because your other hand is operating your gas and brake. And I kid you not, this was a true story. The woman said, "You can't put the restrictions on your permit until you're seen by an inspector, so the inspector can verify that you have a disability." And so my mother and I said, "Where is said inspector?" And they said, "Well, he's not in this building today. You have to go to another building." So my mother was flipping out, because now we had to drive from one building to another to substantiate that I had a disability, so he could stamp my permit with my restrictions, or I couldn't drive. And then we get to this other building, and it has so many steps. It's like the Philadelphia Library in the movie Rocky, or in real life. And my mother now looks and says, I can't say what she said, but she used a few expletives and said, "How am I supposed to even get you in this building?" She then went into the building herself and had to escort the inspector out to the car so he could verify my disability. But then he didn't believe I had a disability because I was sitting in the front passenger seat. My mother then had to open the trunk and show him my wheelchair, but that wasn't enough. Then she had to bring me my wheelchair, and he had to watch me transfer so that he could see that my disability wasn't fabricated and I wasn't pretending. At this point, my 16-year-old self shut my mother up and said, "Who in the heck would pretend any of this? Because it's glamorous to need these restrictions on my permit and my license? Are you kidding me?" It took us an extra 2 hours to go through this process to verify my disability so that New York State would allow me to drive. Craziness. And how this relates to healthcare is because any system has restrictions, or you need to validate and verify. And then you often have to get doctors to verify your disability. Like for the concert note and for the permit, I had to go, even though they had to physically see me, I had to bring doctor's documentation that this was something I had all along. It's crazy, because then the doctors get pissed that you need the information, and they take 10 years to get it to you. So everything is delayed. And can you imagine what it's like to have to verify your every existence? Because it sucks. I've gone into hospitals, into emergency rooms, and they've said to me, "You don't look sick. You don't look like you're in pain." To the point where I got to the point where I would say to them, please, dear God, tell me what pain looks like and sounds like, because if you tell me, I promise I'll wear the mask next time. And I turned around to the doctor and I said, do you need me to sound like him? Because the guy next to me sounded like he was dying. And I think he had an ingrown toenail. I'm not minimizing his pain for him. But I said, you need me to sound like him? I could sound like him 10,000 times over. The difference is I've dealt with this all my life. So I have a very high tolerance of pain. I have strategies that I use to deal with the pain. And the doctor said, I don't believe you. And I said, okay, take the film, take the x-ray, and I guarantee you that I am so full of stuff that my eyes should be brown. And that's probably why my hair is brown. And I won't tell you, I told you so, when you come back and you have to face me and say, wow, you really should be here. He came back about 15 minutes after my film was taken and said, we need to help you. So these are just some examples of how the system makes it harder for us to get what we need, because we first have to validate our existence as being true.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharon, so much for sharing that. And with that, we're going to jump right into the conversation about our disability advocacy. And I see David has a question. How do you spark the shift in conversation around disability advocacy? So I'm going to pass it over to Jay. Jay, are you able to help us answer this question here for David?
That's a toughie. How do I spark the shift in conversation around disability advocacy?
And anyone can jump in too. So we're here all to support one another.
Sure.
Jay, I'm sorry. I actually do want to actually answer this. And it's how to spark the shift in conversation around disability advocacy. We all have some type of disability. I don't necessarily think that we need to actually shift the conversation. I think we need to make that conversation more readily discussed, which is what Martha is doing here today, is actually not so much shifting it, but including it. Because if we keep shifting the discussions around patients and the different issues that we're all facing, we're gonna wind up in a circle, just spinning and spinning and spinning around. We have to find a way to actually not so much shift it, but include it in the overall conversation about why patient advocacy is important.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Sharon.
I think too, I know this is going to sound really trite, but it's true. We need to see people with disabilities as people first, and their difference second. And then we need to ask questions. This is how you shift the conversation. When people aren't sure how to assist me, I will tell people how the best way to assist me, but I also encourage them to ask me questions. Sharon, what's the best way for me to help you? And this includes doctors, by the way, because don't assume that doctors have a clue on how to assist each individual person. And I don't care if they have a disability or, a visual disability, that they can be seen or something else, because like Sandra said, we all have differences. So we need to stop making the differences so pronounced, like in our heads, so pronounced, and just be saying, what can I do for you? What's the best way that I can assist you? And I think that's key.
Yeah, and you said, I don't know if it was you, Sharon, or maybe Sandra. Someone said we all have disabilities. I think it was you, Sandra. And I heard this with the unhoused community through the outreach. I heard this from healthcare professionals that every unhoused person has some type of mental health condition. And when we spoke with the unhoused community and we said, oh, there's a condition you may have, or there's a diagnosis that we found through this organization, through this healthcare, they were very adamant about having that diagnosis on their record. So that's like another conversation to go into too, because we're also getting some folks that are getting misdiagnosed and that they're not agreeing with the diagnosis, or they don't want it in their record. I mean, this could go on and on, but I just wanted to mention that, Sandra, because that kind of reminded me of what a conversation that happened here in the community. Thank you for sharing that. Leanne, did you want to say something? I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to give the definition because there is a complicit bias towards people with disabilities in the medical field. I've seen it time and time again, and here's the definition for complicit bias: is the conscious or unconscious failure to intervene against known harms, injustices of discrimination, effectively enabling wrongdoing through silence or inaction. And please let me give just this one example because it breaks my heart. People need to know this story. One of my residents, it was right before Christmas, lovely person, I'll call her DJ, but very frail, in a very frail medical state. And she did need to have hospitalization for pneumonia, but they released her only 3 days after. And I was appalled when I saw her because she was so weak and frail and could hardly support herself by her walker. I was outraged by the hospital's actions. Where are the social workers? And unfortunately, okay, so she returned on the 21st of December, and she decided she just had enough. She was on oxygen 24 hours. She took off her oxygen tube, opened up her door, laid down, died so that she could be discovered. Yeah.
Oh, that's devastating, Leanne, to hear. But it's real. It's happening. Some people
That's
I know,
what's happening.
some people are choosing also even not to seek healthcare. They would rather just deal with it at home on their own way, or just be outside. Our folks that live outside, just be out there and handling it how they want to handle it. Did someone else want to say anything? I'm so sorry. Just want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Nope. Okay. I see a couple more comments coming through. Hello, Brother Crystal. Thank you for joining us. And then Gregory said the only way to spark it is to vote en bloc. People with disabilities are the biggest voting share in given country. Thank you, Gregory.
And for that, I agree. Voting is very, very important. We have to stop just voting on for the president. Let's get together and vote for every time there's an election wherever you are, because you are correct, David. That is, in fact, how we don't shift it, but how we make it matter.
And then we have a comment here from Gregory for you, Leanne. He said the definition can be used in a disability employment. Thank you.
Okay, so exactly, a definition of disability employment?
Oh, like you can reference it to employment also.
Oh, okay. Well, they do have a harder time unless they're working with a case manager who is sending them out on possibilities. There are particular different groups who specifically hire artisans, Safeway, Albertsons. So we always had an advocate case manager assist in their job search and making sure that they had proper transportation back and forth and that this would be a good fit.
Thank you so much, Leanne, for sharing that. Now we're going to jump into the conversation, and I know we're going to be moving here a little bit fast. So if you have questions, just let us know in the comments, and we'll make sure to see. The next conversation we're jumping into is incarceration in healthcare. And my knowledge is not really great in this area right now. I've only had one particular case of a gentleman who was unhoused, ended up in jail, and he informed me that he was not getting his medication. And so I did a couple of research before I came on the call, and I found that this is not just a one instance. This happens a lot with folks that are incarcerated, where because of either of there's not enough people working to provide the medication, and or in this case particular, they didn't believe that he was in pain. He needed Tylenol, and they said no, we're denying that for you. So Sandra, I'm going to pass it over to you also to share, because I know that you have some wonderful news, and I want to make sure you get that spotlight. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. But before I speak, I'm going to actually pass it to Sharon, because Sharon actually also has some information to share. So, and I don't want to take over the conversation. So I'm going to let Sharon share her
Thank you.
example that she has, and then I'll come back on. Sharon, it's on you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll make it really quick. I worked with people who were diagnosed with mental illness, a variety of mental illnesses and chemical dependency. And many of them became incarcerated because they didn't have access to their medications, and their behaviors, got them into criminal activity. And then once they were incarcerated, they didn't always have access to medication because they weren't believed, or it took a while for the assessments that they do assessments when people are incarcerated, but it can take a while to get those assessments scheduled and done. And then on the flip side of all that, let's say they do get medication while they're incarcerated. Once they're out and they've done their time, it becomes a vicious cycle, because once they get out, they're not given the resources of where do I go now to get the medication so I can stay stable, and where do I go to get a clinician, and a provider who can monitor me and give me the scripts. So there's definitely a gap in every aspect of the system where people are falling through the cracks. And I'm not blaming the providers. I'm not blaming the actual patients. I just think that we all have to, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. We all have to come together. We can advocate as single people, and yes, we can have an impact. But when we come together, the impact is that much greater. And so that's what I could add to this. I mean, I could say more, but there's not a need to say more right now. It really just runs the gamut of, at every spot in the system or in the cycle, there is a gap. And those gaps are where people and the system kind of fall short. And the people aren't falling short, and the system itself isn't falling short. We have to recognize where there's a leak, and we have to do what we can to plug the leak. And then we also have to, I like to take it a step further and design a new system that takes care of that leak, so it's never a problem again within the system, at least that particular problem. And then we do that for everything that comes along. So I'll say thank you again, Sandra, and I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So what I do want to add to this conversation in reference to the incarceration and in reference to the people that are incarcerated is this. On February 28th, my organization released the Vashti Digital Healthcare Platform. That platform has 14 courses on it, and it's designed, and we've actually just recently launched a digital healthcare tour. So you're saying, okay, well, Sandra, how does that have to do with incarceration? And that's because one of the groups that we're looking to collaborate with are those prisons who have very many times people who are incarcerated that have no business being incarcerated because they did not commit a crime. It hasn't been proven that they've committed a crime. but yet they're spending years and years and years, sometimes months, in a prison system. And so when they do that, what's happening is that they're losing, community resources, such as, okay, so when I get home, where do I go for healthcare? When I get home, who can I contact? What are the resources? What do I need to know proactively while I'm here, so that when I do get released, it's not that I'm starting all over again. I'm going to have to start an incarcerated person when they come home. They have to start all over again in certain things. But when it comes to healthcare is a lifelong process. It's not something that stops because you get incarcerated. So why stop teaching them about the resources that are available to them? So like the cases that we've heard today, when they've gotten discharged and they didn't have medication and they didn't know where to turn to get that medication that they needed, that while it was a prisoner, they had the medic access to it. Now they don't. That's all information that should be taught to them. Education is key on everything. If you're not educated, you're not going to ever understand or know those things that you need, the basic things that you need to understand. So we're hoping that we'll actually be able to partner with prisons or with other nonprofits that actually work with ex-offenders or offenders, especially offenders before they're released, so that they can understand that, hey, when the gate opens and I need to walk out into society as a human, I can actually walk out knowing that if I need Tylenol, I need the ibuprofen, I need whatever, here are some spaces that I can go, spaces and places that I can go to get this information. We have to stop putting people in prison and then throwing away the key as if they don't matter, only for them to come find out they're not guilty or their time has been lessened for good behavior, whatever it is. They need to be able to walk out knowing this is where I go to continue to take care of my health care. So that's something that we've actually started, and we're looking to actually launch the prison part of that within the next couple of months.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for sharing on this topic of incarceration. And I can certainly say that a lot of the folks that I've been able to support in different states, there's the confidence level is not there because of the education. And I even see this on a professional way also, Sandra, Sharon, Leanne, and Jay, where when we're going through our own crisis, we can't think straight. When I was dealing with my own medical condition, my mental health condition, I couldn't process information right. And so I had to seek help. And so, but seeking help required me to advocate. And sometimes when we're in that space, when we're not okay, we need to find support. And so locating the support and where to go to is also key. And so thank you for bringing that up on the education part, Sandra. Leanne, I'm going to pass it over to you now. We're going to jump right into the transportation part of this conversation. Let me know.
Yeah, are we good to go?
You're good to go, yes.
All right, so transportation is a real problem for so many people who are low income. First of all, look at today's gas price, the upkeep of a car, and the fact that their medical condition probably shouldn't be driving. So then you look to what resources we could have for them. Are they in need of a caregiver? Can we get them hooked up to a caregiver? And is the caregiver allowed to take them to their appointments or errands, grocery shopping, that kind of thing? Then there is paratransit. Of course, there's a lot of paperwork that you have to fill out, but if you have an advocate, they can help you. And so that's another good resource. But the thing about paratransit, you have to make a reservation 3 days in advance of what your destination is and what time to be picked up. But it is able to accommodate wheelchair people. Same with specialty mobile services. It's also has the right type of vehicle an electric lift to get the wheelchair up and put them inside the van and transport them safely to their medical appointment. Now, it can get really dicey if they are what they resorted to if they had an emergency and their only choice, because it's right on the spot, an emergency, they'd have to call 911. And that's what they would do. We got a lot of EMTs on a weekly basis because there was no alternative. These services require a 3-day notice. There's nothing within, that same day set up for, unless you have a caregiver, friend, or relative willing to take you where you need to go. So I want to, I really tried to, there's this new in-home healthcare service. It's called Dispatch Health. They make in-home medical calls, and it's for a number of things. They're open 7 days a week. They operate from 8 a.m. to 7 days a week. Their services include treating infection, minor injuries, and chronic conditions covered by major insurance providers. They accept most insurances. They accept Medicare and Medicaid. And if it's something that doesn't need immediate hospitalization, and it's something that can be done because they send their treatment report to your primary care provider. So your primary care provider will have that information of what you were treated for in home, and it makes it so much more convenient. I mean, the fact that if you're having some kind of allergic reaction, whatever it may be, that doesn't require you to go to the hospital, you can call Dispatch Health Care. They will come to you in the same day. I've used them before myself. They're wonderful. That's a great resource. People need to, I'm going to send the link to the email that we're posting of what the resources are, but Dispatch Healthcare is just a wonderful, they make house calls. And for people who have difficulty being able to get out for whatever reason and needed medical attention right away, this is a great alternative rather than having to call 911 and have the EMTs come. Because that particular property where I was living, we were getting flagged of too many 911 calls. But getting people to change how they respond to having their medical urgencies and getting them to trust, look, there's this service. You don't need to call 911. They will accept your insurance. They come to your home. I had it posted everywhere, and just I had community meetings once a month to reiterate, utilize this medical care. They come to your house. That's about it.
Thank you so much,
Can I just
Leanne,
jump
for
in for a
sharing that.
second?
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Sharon. It's
I'm
okay.
sorry, Martha. I just want to jump in for 1 second. The problem that I see is that there needs to be a lot of these services are very localized in a lot of situations. Like the service that Leanne is speaking of, we have nothing like that where I live. Nothing at all. Because if we did, I would be utilizing that much more often, given my own situation. And so one of the things that I am advocating for is to have a more national or federal way to service people in all walks of life and all marginalized or people who need assistance in different ways and different areas, because that's part of the problem, is that it's very each state has yes, there are some federal regulations, but each state also has different services available, or different eligibility requirements for different services, and that's what can make it so difficult as well.
Right.
Because it's not universal. That was the word I was looking for. It needs to be
Yeah.
universally
Right.
eligible to people and also available.
Mhm. I just want to add one thing too. When they're thinking of, when they're constructing these multifamily apartment units, thinking about access to health services, the particular property that I lived at, Unified Community Clinic, was just a block up the road, so people who were able to walk could just go right up to the clinic. The clinic was easy to access. They didn't have to make any arrangements for transportation. It was something that they could walk to. Same thing with Frontier Behavioral Health, was just right across the street from the apartment complex I was living in. And so we utilized Frontier Behavioral Health quite a bit. And it was really easy just to walk them over to get some much needed rest and support. Yes, yeah. And then also, I want to brag, and this is it, women and children's free restaurant was just a couple blocks away, that they can. The Women and Children's Free Restaurant is just one of the best nonprofit organizations around. And so they provide, you can get meals, and they're will give you groceries to take home as well.
That is such a blessing, Leanne. Thank you for sharing that organization also. Now, just to speak on a national level, I have been servicing different states, New York, California, Texas, Louisiana, and Florida. And all of these locations do have, if you're on Medicaid, for example, or any insurance, contact your insurance and see if they have case management, social workers, and then it's their job to go and locate the local resources for you to get the support that you need. Not a lot of people know that, but just to give you guys some information there, some insights. And then you don't know, but also they help with locating utility assistance, locate with food resources, anything that you may think you need support with. Get in contact with your health insurance and tap into those resources.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
Are you familiar with, are you working at properties that have social services coordinators, or just property managers, or what they have tried to call them now are community directors, trying to combine my old job with property management? Is that available? Because
yes.
I had 3 different properties that I was responsible for. So I would go around, I was going to be there certain times, meet with clients, and discuss what it is that I can help them with.
Yeah, it is available here in California, and I think it's something that HUD works with also to support their members. And so, like, for example, in the senior community, they have a contact person on site, and that contact person, if there's any issues with the facilities or there's something going on with the member, then they will then get in contact with their social worker. So they're pretty involved. I mean, that's what I've seen here in California. As far as Texas, I didn't get that deep there. But with my advocacy, what I've noticed is you have to have another person on the call to support you. That's been key for my members, because what happens with that is there's accountability and there's no shortcuts. Because and this is not to down talk to anyone in the field, but it's just to bring this up to the surface. If we are in service to help, we should be going above and beyond to serve the person that needs the help. And that doesn't always happen. And I can attest to that because I've seen it multiple times. And so that's the part of the education that Sandra brought up, and Sharon and Jay and Leanne, educating the public on what to ask for and how to ask, because not everyone that's listening knows, oh, I can escalate this to their supervisor. Yes, you absolutely can. If you're not getting the support from your case manager, your social worker, escalate. That's why we all have a voice. Use your voice. You don't have to have all this education for that, but you listen and do. Don't let your anger get in the way, because that's another thing too. I don't know if you come across cases where some people get very
Oh my
upset,
God. Yeah.
and they're not heard because the other party is not going, and I know I've had this too. We're not going to be able to support you if you're yelling at me.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Martha, I
Yes.
want to actually add to what you just said. And I want people to be mindful of this. We are in a political season right now where things are being cut. So the resources that you may have been used to are being gradually taken away from you. So, if you have insurance, yes, they get paid to do a job. And when you don't have them do their job, well, now they're going to get paid anyway, and you're going to be without your resources. Your insurance company case managers will know, hey, if these programs still exist, and if they don't exist, here's some other ones that might be helpful for you. But back to Sharon's thing, some of these programs are locally based. They're not national, and and the only way for us to get these to be national is if we collaborate to come together. We can come at it from all different sides, but we have to come together to prove the point that there's power in numbers. We get stuff done when we work through power. But like I said, I just want to quickly address your point, is that, yeah, all of these services are available. Some might be available now and they're taken away from you. Some might be available in California, but not in Illinois, or in New York, but not in Connecticut. I mean, across the board, it differs, which is why I beg everyone that's in good mind and good health right now, be proactive about making sure that you have the latest access to resources that you have so that you can pass the correct information along. Because the last thing you want is to give someone who is in need some information and that information not be valid any longer, because you've just broke that trust level. And it's hard to get that trust level back. So just please keep that in mind.
I've been attending different events outside of LinkedIn, supporting the aging community. And the data that has stood out to me the most is by 2030, it's going to triple our baby boomers who are going to need support. They're expecting more unhoused members to be outside. But not only that, this is where we need advocates. We're going to need more advocates because we're going to need support. Did someone have their hand up? Sorry, I missed.
Oh, no, I'll identify. I'm proud to say I'm a baby boomer. Yeah, we are the largest population, and now we're all hitting the medical offices. I mean, I've gone to get my whole well-being together. The checklist. You go down, you go for all the physical fitness examination, your blood test, bone density, mammogram, etc. This is all very time consuming too. I noticed first of all, when the next appointment is available, but just the fact of there are multiple, and it's not with the same, because every doctor is a specialist now. So you may be going to multiple different doctors. So it is a process. This is one thing that I've really noticed. It's taken up. I'm glad that I've done it. I've had the time now because I did early retirement. And so, but it takes up a lot of time just going to all these appointments, my orthopedic surgeon, my, general practitioner. And I was looking in to see about neurofeedback is a great pain management. If you have migraines, I get them occasionally, but it's so effective. You don't need to be taking pharmaceutical, but this is a thing that it's not recognized by the medical industry because it doesn't involve pharmacy. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Leanne. I seen Sharon had her hand up too.
Yeah, I just wanted to say again that the eligibility requirements for different programs are different as well. So I think that we could work as advocates, we could work towards the eligibility requirements being more similar for the different programs, because people that need access to one program usually need access to multiple programs, but yet the eligibility requirements are very different. And also, I also believe wholeheartedly that I was born with cerebral palsy. Jay was born with his disability. Sorry, Jay, I always botch the name of it and I apologize. But different people have different conditions, but those different conditions may have different things that they need, but they also have similar things that they need. So there's no reason that myself and Jay can't advocate together, or myself and Martha can't advocate together. I want to encourage people to come together to advocate with and for each other, no matter what the condition or the situation is. Because if you're being marginalized for some reason, then you can come together to fight the marginalization together, because it doesn't have to be the exact situation that you're trying to, push through. It doesn't have to be, the same for it to make a difference. And I know I've experienced people that I can't advocate with you because I need this, or this is so different. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because there's power in numbers. So it doesn't matter if, the numbers coming from a different country or a different cultural background or a different condition. It doesn't matter. So those are the two things that I really wanted to add. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. As you were speaking, Sharon, I was just thinking about wearing your advocacy badge, right? Putting that on in the morning, or, wearing that hat, advocacy hat, however you want to just put it on, but always having that on, because we can advocate for any field, not just the healthcare, but there is power in numbers. I absolutely agree with you on that, Sharon. Jay, you have the mic.
Yeah, Martha. Talk about like how patients with, different illnesses or challenges, being like taken advantage of. Because the thing is, patients like myself, look, seek out things like Social Security. Sometimes they need the food stamps, but the problem is that the services that we need, a lot of people like who are not us take advantage of those services, and they use it for their purpose instead of giving it to people who really need it, because like either because of the nature of the condition, or they're having employment issues because of you know the illness, or the fact that they're just too sick that they can't work. And you know and I notice a lot like disabled people get targeted, and and
Yeah.
being able and having to deal with that part of the system, it's very challenging. So
Mm-hmm.
talk about that,
Yeah.
because I
So
think that's something really important.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Jay, because I remember when I was doing my outreach in a particular location, we have a lot of unhoused folks, where I met people in wheelchairs, where I met people who were don't want to, who had vision impaired issues, hearing issues. And yet they're out on the streets. And why? That's because our system is so broken. We have a broken healthcare system. And we have the social workers who have a capacity of cases that they're taking care of. And sometimes it's difficult to keep track. Even case management. I mean, even in the field that I'm in, right? If we don't have one person that's just focused on us for 8 hours, that person's only focused on us for that 1 hour or 2 hours. That's it. And in that time frame, we have to do all these tasks. So there's going to be things that will be missed. And yes, it's a broken system. And that's why we need more of us advocates to be educating the community on how to make requests and how we all can support one another. We that's it. It's just we all need each other. Sandra, do you have something? I see you.
No, I'm sorry. I'm moving back and forth because I have my lumbar back because my back.
I'm on my life cycle.
Oh,
So I keep moving back and forth because my back is bothering me. But I have a back pillow that's giving me support.
Yeah, I have one too. We all got something going on, friends. I got one too on my back. Thank you, Sandra. Sharon, I see you had on mic'd and then went back. So I just want to see I don't miss anything from you.
Because I feel like, I was listening to you talk, and we need to be the system for each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, we all recognize that the system is broken, and the only way to fix a broken system is to first acknowledge that the system is broken, and then rather than be part of what perpetuates the problem, come to it with a solution. Like I had a supervisor once that said to our team, you can come to me with anything that you think needs revision or fixing or whatever, but don't come into my office if you're going to gripe and complain. Come into my office with an issue, and come into my office with at least one idea of how we can start to solve the problem. And that stuck with me. I was young when he said that, and it stuck with me because it's true. I'm not judging anybody. What I'm saying is, let's shift our perspective, and you can recognize that there's a problem. You could be frustrated and angry that there's a problem. Trust me, I spend more time on the phone for my clients trying to get them services that they should have easily. And I've spent more time on the phone trying to get myself access to services and help that I need that I shouldn't have. I mean, it's a full-time job. And the paperwork that once you get through the phone call, then all the paperwork comes into play. And then you can do it online, but only if the technology is working. So, I mean, it is no doubt that we're going to get frustrated, but the best way to handle the frustration is to be the system for each other. I will say that I have spoken to almost everybody on this panel at some point, and we have each helped each other through different life circumstances and situations that we're each experiencing. And we've also helped each other with our clients. Martha has been, I know you don't like when I do this, but oh well. Martha has been such a resource for me, because I'm not going to get into my personal stuff on this stream, but I will say that I've been going through a lot, and a lot of it has to do with system stuff and my disability and a whole bunch of other things. But it's all related to a broken system. And Martha has been an extremely valuable resource for me with all of her resources. And I hope that I've done the same for other people, my clients and colleagues and friends, because the best people to be the system are the people that are inside the system trying to utilize the broken system, because we've all experienced it. So we can all benefit from helping each other from what we've had to go through. And we can also help each other with the frustration, because if I can't access medication that I need to make my muscles loose, because my muscles are naturally tight, well, then I'm not going to be able to function. I mean, it's going to be very difficult for me to function. And at some point, I'm just going to be able to have to get in my bed and say, I'm done moving for the day because it's just not safe for me to do it anymore. So I really feel strongly about us creating the system for each other, be the system for each other. And that's how we're going to create new systems overall, is when we start being the system for each other. It's like they say when you're raising a child, you know, it takes a village. You'll
It
often
does.
hear people say that. Well, it takes a village at every stage of life and to get through every part of life. And it doesn't have to be like this dramatic or catastrophic thing that you're going through, but we all need each other.
Yeah.
Nobody can be completely
Mhm.
1000% independent. I'm sorry, but you cannot be. We
Mhm.
all
Right.
need to connect to resources in order to enable us to be independent. So it is a myth to think that you could be 100% independent. And I'll land it there.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing, for passing that information over to us. And then also know that you also have rights. If there's something that you're not getting, make a complaint, write it out, send an email, do a grievance. I mean, there's a ladder of things you can do to get processes to move and escalate. If you can't get a help from that person that you're talking to on the phone, escalate. Leanne, I seen you had your hand up,
Mm,
and I know we're kind of
yes.
getting short on time. So,
Yep. I'll make it really quick. It's really important to get your community leaders involved in what you're doing because they will step up. Spokane has really stepped up. The police took additional training for domestic violence and mental health issues. If there's a person in crisis mentally, they will have a social worker with them when they go to calm and de-escalate the situation. This is what I'm saying, working with your local leadership can really make a difference and in seeing these programs successful because I just want to, I'll pitch it really quick. Frontier Behavioral Health has a mobile community assertive treatment rapid response. They will come that day if a person is that they're off their medicine, they're not thinking clearly, there's a real mental problem issue there.
yeah.
The mobile crisis team will come, which
Mhm.
is incredible. I'm just saying, utilize the agencies and suggest these kind of programs. How can we get these programs going?
Yeah. And then we'll also share it in the comments too, friends. If you're listening here or Team Replay, we'll share the resources as well in the comments. Thank you so much, Leanne. And with that, we're gonna start heading out. We're almost at time. Would you like to share any last thoughts on this conversation before we go? I'll start over with Jay.
Yeah, I'll just say that, advocacy never stops. Continue to advocate for yourself, and then once you do that, you can advocate for others. Um I that's that. And when you advocate for yourself and then for others, you learn so many new things. You can continue to share your voice, open up your mind with others, network and collaborate with the ones who can resonate with you. And like I said, it all starts when you are part of an organization which specializes with your disability or your medical challenge. And then you can network with people in that organization and talk about the medical challenge issues. You can ask questions, maybe seek employment from those patients as well. You can do so many things in your organization. And and again, continue to advocate, share your voice. And if you ever are seeking services like social security or food stamps or what have you, and you feel like you're being denied, you have every right to appeal.
Mhm.
When you appeal, it gets you in a process where you're finally given that service, and it also is a representation of the fact that you're not being taken advantage of, because right now we have a broken system and it feels like people are taking advantage of us, and it needs to end with action. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Please pass it on to the next person.
I'll
To
think I
the
pass it on to Sandra.
Thank you so much. And my parting words are this: let's stop saying mental health and physical health. Health is health.
oh
And until we recognize that health
my
is
God.
health, we're going to always have this problem. We have to stop saying, oh, I deal with mental health, or I deal with physical. We have to say we deal with health. We have to also remember that a patient comes at all ages. There are patients that are born as babies. There are patients, and you've heard two of them speaking on it today. They were born into us. They didn't ask to come into this world like that, but yet they are. And as they continue to age and they continue to get older in age, we see more of them. We don't see as much because they hide away. We got to actually start encouraging them, as Martha said, and as I also say all the time: speak up, speak loud, and speak often. I'm not telling anyone to be boisterous, but what I am telling, because we all know how to do it, where we get our
Mhm.
points across. But I am saying, stop sitting silently by thinking that you're the only one that's having this problem, because even babies have these problems. Unfortunately, we don't hear about it enough. So that is what I want to leave you with today: is speak up, speak loud, speak often, and let's stop putting labels on people and say, hey, you got a mental health issue. Hey, you got a physical health issue. Say you have an issue and own up to it. Thank you so much, Martha, for having me today. And I will pass it on to, let me switch it around. I'll pass it on to Leanne.
Thank you. I agree with everything that you said, and the importance of networking, networking with your local leaders, local different nonprofits who provide support for the population that we're advocating for, and just that it doesn't matter that you're not a social worker. My motto is help anyone you can when you can. I'll leave it at that.
We'll pass it over to Sharon. Thank you, Leanne.
You're welcome.
First, I want to say thank you, Martha, for bringing us together to have this panel for this very important discussion on this very important topic. Um, and then I just want to say um, two things. First, let's stop judging. Please stop judging each other. If somebody is having a situation and if all you can do is judge, then please just step aside and let the next person come in. If you need, look, every person, every human being at some one point or another is judgmental. It's just part of human nature. Some are less judgmental than others, but at any given point in time, we've all judged somebody for something, or we've been judged. But we don't have to judge people all the time. And if we're in a judgy kind of mood because we're being rubbed the wrong way by a particular issue or circumstance, step aside. Step aside and let the next person come in. And then the last thing I want to say for today is, please let's just keep the conversation going. We don't have to agree. We can truly agree to disagree, but even when we disagree, we can learn from each other and we can keep the conversation going and we can build on what we're putting out there, even if it comes from disagreement. Disagreement is how some of the best changes come to be. So please, let's just keep the conversation going and let's respect each other. And let's respect each other's circumstances, even if we don't fully understand the other person's circumstances. We don't have to get in a position of judging those circumstances or the people that are in them.
Thank
And
you
I'll
so
pass
much.
it on.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So for me, I would just say a lead. You're an advocate of your own life. And if you are able to help other people around you, advocate for them, be a voice. Don't look away, especially if it's a family member, or put yourself in a position where maybe, you need someone to advocate for you. They can do that favor for you too. Just think of it like that. Also, I wanted to say something else and it just went away. It just went away. But as an advocate, be compassionate, show empathy and grace, and be calm as you do what you do for yourself and others, to get the message across as much as possible in a positive way, so that you can get that support that you need. So with that, I want to thank Sandra again so much for joining me, and Sharon and Jay and Leanne. I really appreciate you spending your Saturday here with us. And please wait for me. Don't leave just yet. We're going to head to the back room. And then thank you, friends, for joining us. Have a wonderful Saturday.